23 years back, I was a refugee. I came to know this in 1990 when my parents and grandparents had spent 28 years as refugees in Uganda. My parents and my grandparents fled my country in 1962 when the monarchy had been demolished due to the influence of the Belgian who had colonized our country. So we grew up in exile. We never knew that we were refugees. We would visit our grandparents in the refugee camp. They would be speaking our local language. Not until in 1990, when the refugees organized themselves to wage a war so that they can have a country. I was, I think, the age of 12. So my father gave me an assignment of always buying newspapers. He never used to be at home because they were part of the mobilization, because that struggle was financed by the diaspora of Rwandese who were in exile. So I would buy newspapers in Uganda, and in the evening, our parents and friends and neighbors would be reading the stories, knowing how the struggle has reached, because they were expecting to return home just in 2 months. But they all took almost 4 years. And then in 1994, unfortunately, towards the end, the country had genocide, and the minority where the Tutsis were exterminated, almost 1 million people. So we returned in 1995. So in 1995, everything was demolished, life was zero, but life had to continue. So during my time at the university, I became a student leader, but throughout primary and secondary and high school, I was always a student leader. So during the students' issues, addressing issues, I met one of my colleagues who was within the country, who was within the internally displaced people. He narrated the story he went through. He narrated how they spent days without eating food. So I said, I think there's something that needs to be done. So then around 2002, that's when I and my other 2 friends, we started an organization called Never Again Rwanda. The essence was to see how we can empower the young people so that they can be responsible citizens. Why? Because genocide happened because leaders failed to make the right decisions at the right time, including the international systems. If they had intervened, almost 1 million people would not have lost their lives. Are the young people the leaders of today or tomorrow? Yes, they should be. But those young people need to be empowered with the right skills, because our societies have not got the opportunity to have the values so that we can have responsible leaders, that we can have the democracy, that we can have the rule of law and human rights. To have that, we need young people who have values of integrity, honest, and also respecting the human rights, and also respecting women. As the world changes, there is lots of demands. But the only way, as I said, is that we need to nurture young people with values, young people who are competent, young people who have integrity, young people who respect the rule of law. So what have I done? Within the Never Again Rwanda, we work with young people, 60%, and 40% it's the entire population. So we've created youth clubs throughout the country. We have 92 youth clubs that are comprised of 7,000 young people. So what do? We teach them critical thinking, debating, and respecting people's rights, because where your rights stop, that's where other people's rights start. Besides that, we've also created a peace building institute, because we believe that we need to build a network of responsible leaders and peace ambassadors. So each year, in February, we have youth from across Africa, whereby they come to Kigali and they undergo training on peace building, genocide prevention, history, democracy, and development, thinking that these Africans who have not had the opportunity to get mentors to live in societies with values can be empowered, so that when they come into the decision-making positions, they can be able to be the real leaders, because the leaders we have are the reflection of our societies. If you have a wounded society, you're going to have wounded leaders who make traumatizing decisions. So it's better to empower the leaders that you would want to see tomorrow. So in summer, we have the youth from the West I mean US and Europe, who also come and undergo the Peace Building Institute. Because we know that the great fathers of these countries built a system that empowers the young people to enter into the international systems and make decisions. If in 1994 the UN had made the right decisions, we wouldn't have lost 1 million people of our families. So the reason why we have these young people coming from Europe and US is to understand the dynamics of politics and the nature of the dynamics in our societies, so that if they are in those decision-making positions, they can take the right decisions at the right time. Gandhi once said that you should be the change that you would want to see. So that change that I dream about, a society of inclusiveness, a society where man and woman has the same rights, that's what motivates me to invest in the young people. Thanks a lot.